it's going live right now, but I'm just going to assume we are streaming live right now. So welcome. Hello, everyone. This is Ash, and might just also get you to say your names there as well.
Hi, guys. I'm Kate. I work for Club Med.
Hey, everybody. I'm Max. I work at Nozawa Onsen.
Very good. And Ash, some of you may have been sort of dealing with me directly, mainly over the phone and email prior to this point, and some of you may not know who I am. So I'm one of the training advisors here at EA, so I work in the operational office here in Queenstown. But just want to say a massive thank you for all of those of you that have registered today. We do have some people online, some people have registered and maybe sort of catching us up later, which is totally fine either way. But we just wanted to make sure we're putting something on today so that you can, I guess, ask questions, have a platform to sort of, put anything else out there that you want to kind of know. I'll maybe just, is it okay, just I'll get a little bit more of a sort of background about both of you, if that's okay, just sort of what your journey was to where you are now, because you're obviously going to be sort of quite key in the season ahead for the results you're representing.
So I'm Kate, originally from the Czech Republic, and I've been working for Club Med for 4 seasons. So this is going to be my 5th season, 2nd season as an assistant manager in Tomamu. So we've got 2 resorts in Hokkaido, Sapporo, which has been open since 1987. And Tomamu, which is a new resort that just opened last year. So that's very exciting for us. So I guess I'll be more in touch with the people from Tomamu, but obviously I've worked for my 4 seasons in Sapporo. So I'm happy to give you hopefully all the answers you guys might want to ask.
So my name's Max. I work at Nozawa Onsen, which is part of the Canyons crew. So any of you that are heading out to Canyons to work in Yuzawa and Nozawa, you get to know me fairly well. I was actually in EA in 2014, Mount Hutt, so only four and a half years ago. And now I've got to the position where I'm managing the ski school in Nozawa and am a full cert NZ instructor as well. It's been a really fun journey. I had a great time when I did my EA program, and it's worked out really well for me. And I've managed to make a pretty fun career out of it too.
Yeah, very good. Hey, awesome to hear from you both about that. And obviously Japan, it's such a cool place. We've all fortunately been people that have spent a little bit of time, myself maybe not quite as long as these two here, but it's certainly a place that's got a lot of interest. You'll find obviously a bit more we'll talk about in today's session, but what we might just do is sort of bang through into some questions. Also, just want to double check if you wouldn't mind just popping on the comment section just to make sure we are speaking to people, so that you are able to hear us, you're seeing us. Just so we can ensure that is the case. That would be great. Even if it's just a quick hello, or where you're from, or anything like that, that'd be awesome. Yeah, AJ, awesome. Yo, fantastic. Awesome. Loud and clear. Hey, there we go. We're all all right. Awesome. Hey, well, so we want to just obviously make this session as much as possible about you guys. So definitely want it to be quite two-way, so any kind of questions or anything we're sort of discussing, if you're just wanting a bit more clarification, you didn't quite sort of feel like you got the gist of sort of everything that we're just explaining, just feel free to use that chat feed on the side. It's obviously for you to get back to us with any points. And either way, I mean, we're generally sort of, it's probably best if you can pop questions in the Ask a Question section. So we've already had some pop up, which is really, really cool. And we'll go through those. But yeah, if you do have questions, just obviously feel free to pop them in as we go. So one thing, I guess just before we sort of commence those questions, we sort of are at a stage where you may have probably had quite a bit of communication from ourselves, you'll probably find that communications are ramping up quite a bit for each of you. And that might be not just ourselves, but also from the employer. So you might be sort of feeling like things are sort of coming a bit faster, which is probably quite normal. From our side, from the operational base, some of the key things we just need to make sure we've got from you is things like the CV and references that we need to provide to the resorts, things like your flight details and visa confirmation. So if you're sort of holding on to those items and you haven't provided those to us, then please do as soon as possible, because some of those are quite important that we're tending to. And obviously from sort of these first stages, we just want to make sure that first impressions with your prospective employer are going to. So things like if you do get an email from any employer, I would strongly suggest that you respond back quite promptly. Most likely this stage of the season, you may have a bit of knowledge of this, you two. Things are quite busy often pre-season for snow schools in the sort of pre-season phase. So if you wouldn't mind, just if any emails come through, just if you can, try your best to tend to them as quick as possible. And probably just another last little point on that is potentially when you're consulting with your training advisor like myself, Alex, Tristan or Ray, you may sort of have, obviously, we've got quite a rapport being built, and we've been sort of speaking for quite some time. So the language we use might be a little bit more casual in that sense. But if you are dealing with an employer, just obviously to bear in mind that that they don't know you necessarily for a start. So it's all about those first impressions to set. So just formally sort of introducing yourself in a nice way. And we can obviously go through some details today, but I'll stop rabbiting on. I'll get on to some questions and let these guys speak a little bit more, because that's what they're here for. So I might just start off with a question it's had heaps of votes, lots of interest. And this is this one. Can you cover getting set up with Japanese SIM cards, etc.? Either how to do it if our own responsibility, or confirm you will support. Thanks. And this is from Nick. So it's just relative to, I guess, how things work for mobiles and the like in Japan.
Yeah, I could probably jump in on that one. Depending on where you go, I don't know particularly about other ski resorts. In Nozawa and Yuzawa, we provide you with a cell phone to be able to use just to make calls. But a lot of people, you've obviously got your own mobile phones. And it's really easy to get your own data SIM card. It doesn't have an actual cell phone number attached to it, but you can get data through it. The best and easiest place to find it is actually on Amazon. If you go on amazon.jp, you can log in and find SIM cards from NTT, Docomo, Sony, and all of the other major network providers in Japan. And they'll give you SIM cards that can either be for a month. I actually go out there and get one for 6 months. It's like a 12 gig, 6-month card. I can't remember how much it costs, but pretty easy to get. And then you can get it delivered the next day to wherever you are in Japan.
So on the Club Med side, we provide our instructors for cell phones only for lessons. So anytime you go out for a lesson, you get a cell phone so you can communicate with other instructors about moving students from one level to the other level. But otherwise, usually people just get those data SIM cards either off Amazon, or if you're at the airport, even the basic convenience stores like 7-Eleven and Lawson, they would have those data SIM cards. Usually, my experience is it depends how much giga does it have of data. It's usually around 2,000, 4,000 yen. And I know from my own experience that it's quite difficult if you actually wanted to get yourself a cell phone with a phone number so you can call people and text people in private. Those are quite difficult to get because have to sign a 2-year contract. So unless you wanna do that, then but usually these days, just working on data and calling each other on Messenger or Skype, it's usually pretty easy.
Yeah, certainly it's a popular question we do get normally each year, and obviously, for each of your respective resorts that you're going to, probably the best sort of, we can certainly speak from the ones that we know best of, but if you are a bit unsure about that, just obviously feel free to pose the question on your Facebook page. Each of the different groups should have the program representative, the program manager that's on there. And if not, we can jump in there where we can. But yeah, it is a little bit individual in terms of the resorts. So I know when I was in Hakata Snow Sports School, I was teaching there a couple of years back, there were cell phones provided so that you could call your work colleagues. But yeah, that was sort of for that particular resort at least. Yeah. Cool. Good question. So moving on, we've got another one here from Nick. Got 2 good questions here. This one's had heaps of interest. So appreciate there are more than one group resorts here, but if you could describe the accommodation setup, that would be great. And someone else has also added that I'd like to know about the accommodation more too, especially with regards to what we need to bring and what's already there and what facilities are there in place for cooking, if any. Cool. So once again, this can be quite resort specific, but I might just let you both sort of explain from your side of things what the interns should be expecting when they're coming out. So, the resorts from Canyons or Club Med.
So I can start on that one. So obviously we've got 2 Club Meds. We've got Sahoro and Tomamu, where the accommodation arrangements are slightly different. Personally, I've never lived in Tomamu, so I don't know exactly how the rooms look like out there, but I know they are single rooms, so you get yourself your own room. It's actually quite tiny, as most of the things in Japan are. So you just get yourself a bed, usually a wardrobe or somewhere to store your clothes, and a desk, and then you're sharing a bathroom, so they're kind of like double cubicles. So you've got 2 single rooms, and they both share a toilet and a shower. In Sahoro and in Tomamu, the rooms are actually within the hotel, within the resort. In Sahoro, the setup is slightly different. There's a staff accommodation, which is about 15-minute walk from the actual hotel where you guys will be working and having meals and everything. But there are in the peak times go usually every half an hour. In the quieter times, it's every hour. And it takes about 2 or 3 minutes to get to the resort by the shuttle bus. Otherwise, you're always welcome to walk, usually because it's up the hill to get to the resort. So it's 15 minutes to go up the resort, 10 minutes to go down to your accommodation. And in Sahoro, you guys get shared rooms. So it's on double shared basis. And there are bathrooms on each floor. So there's 3 floors in the building. Usually the bottom floor is for guys, the middle floor is for couples, and the top floor is for girls. And then on every floor, there's a set of bathrooms. You have to bring yourself like your own shampoo and shower gel and stuff like that. Toilet paper is provided, and the bathrooms are cleaned usually 2 or 3 times a week. So then the toilet paper is refilled. The great thing about Sahoro is that in the hotel, you have an ofuro, which is the traditional Japanese hot bath. So a lot of the lot of the GOs or a lot of the instructors in Club Med in Sahara would actually end up having showers in the Sahara, so they don't have to head back to their accommodation. And in the Oforo, you've got shampoo, conditioner, and soap for free. Towels as well. But for the staff accommodation, you're going to need to bring your own towels. For Tomamu, the onsen, there's an onsen which is actually separate from Club Med. We can still use it. We can still use it for free, but it's a different building just across the street. So it might be a little bit more difficult to get to. That's it.
Yeah, so I guess I could speak specifically about the canyon side of it. Those of you from Nozawa and Yuzawa. In Yuzawa, there's a large accommodation block that we've got, and it's kind of like apartment styled. Each apartment has 2 bedrooms that sleeps 3 to 4 people, and in that apartment it has like a kitchen area and a bathroom that would be yours for those people that you're sharing the apartment with. I think there's 8 or 10 apartments in that block. I can't remember exactly. And that's pretty close to the Gali Yuzawa resort that you'd be working at. I think it's about a 10-minute walk as far as I remember. I've only been there once or twice. And then in Nozawa, we have a kind of more, the accommodation we have is an old hotel. So it's 2 people bedrooms. The bedrooms are really nice. They're not massive, but kind of like Kate said, everything in Japan is a little bit smaller and you get used to it. And in that accommodation, there's breakfast and dinner provided for you guys as well. We have a live-in chef that will provide that. And there's like a couple big shower blocks in there. Again, things like bedding is provided, and it's all traditional Japanese style bedding, so it's futons. It's not the thick Western beds that you might all know and use. Anybody that's been to Japan has probably slept on a futon. They're a little thinner and a little bit firmer, but you do get used to them. I really like them, and a lot of people tend to do. There are options if you really don't feel comfortable to go and buy like a thicker, softer mattress to put under it. Yeah, the accommodation's really close to town. It's maybe a 5-10 minute walk from town at the most, and about 5 minutes from the nearest chairlift. You jump on that chairlift and then you can ride into ski school. It takes like 15 minutes to get to work in the morning, which is pretty nice being so close to everything. I think kind of in general, in terms of Japanese accommodation, pretty much all of the hotels I've been to and other accommodations I've stayed in, it's always been futons, and you get used to it, and I find it really fun. That traditional Japanese feel kind of makes you feel like you're actually becoming part of the culture, and it's something you really learn to like.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I just want to add, in Club Med you get beds, you don't get futons. But one more thing that Max reminded me about, like cooking facilities. So obviously in Club Med you get all the meals provided, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Obviously you might know already that you'll be having lunches and dinners with the guests. Outside on your days off, there's going to be a day off table. So of course on your days off you don't have to have lunch and dinner with the guests. So breakfast, and on your days off there's a special table where you sit and you can have your meals. So there's no cooking facilities, nothing, because all the food is provided. It's all buffet style. There's plenty of food, plenty of fruits and vegetables, and Club Med is pretty good at accommodating any dietary requirements. There's no fridges in the rooms as well. So usually when people want to store like little snacks or juices and drinks, usually we store it like in between the windows. Yeah, so just count on that.
Awesome. Yeah, and I guess sort of relative to other resorts, because there's other ones obviously that some of you that are watching today will be going to. It is quite, once again, resort specific in terms of the way it's set up. It's pretty much the same sort of general theme that we will ensure that there's accommodation provided in that first period that you're training towards level 1. So that's all part of the inclusion of the program. What will normally be the case is pretty much just about all will be some form of staff housing that you're moving directly into, and that's normally, I'd say on average, it's between a twin to a quad share. So it's a little bit hard to sort of go into too much detail because there'll be quite a lot of different resorts to sort of explain if I was. But yeah, if you're a bit unsure about it, there are a couple of things just to know. So one is that we are sending out pre-arrival information and program handbooks. So you should be receiving that. If you haven't already, you should be receiving that pretty soon. That does have things like accommodation addresses and sort of the initial setup, how things are going to work. And if you're a bit unsure, once again, use those Facebook pages. That's probably your best way to go. Look, does it have this particular item in its facility? And the program should be able to explain accordingly. So that's probably the best way to go, I guess, if you feel like what we've discussed so far may not be relevant specifically to you, then that's probably the best way to go. Yeah, I guess the other point on that, if you are doing an internship in Honshu, then you will be accommodated initially on the arrival orientation, which takes place in Tokyo. So the arrival orientation is just sort of the first couple of days, getting your bearings, getting over jet lag, and exploring around Tokyo. So there's a bit of sort of logistics, but a lot of it's sort of social as well, sightseeing and getting bits and pieces arranged, adapters and that kind of thing. So we'll have you housed, relative to the flight details that you provide us. So as long as you're providing us the details for when the arrival orientation starts, then we'll have you picked up from the airport and transferred to your hotel for a start. And then you'll move on to your resorts where you'll be housed for accommodation. If you're going to any of the Hokkaido options, we basically take it directly from the airport to the resort. So that's where you're going to spend the first accommodation period. And there isn't officially an arrival orientation sort of separate to the program. So that's, I guess, just something to add in.
Ash, if I can just add maybe one more thing.
In Club Med
is quite remote. So you've got your resort. Is a little bit more lively. There's a couple of more hotels. There's a few more restaurants around right in the resort. But Sapporo is very, very remote. There's only Club Med Hotel, which is a ski in, ski out. And there's a Sapporo Resort Hotel, and that's it. So the closest village is about 10 kilometers away from Club Med. And again, there are free staff shuttle buses that go usually every 2 hours. So on your day off, you can catch the shuttle bus, go into town. There's a supermarket and a couple of more restaurants. Nothing really fancy. So just so you can count on that.
Yeah. Excellent. So, thanks so much for your questions there, and thanks for your input there, Max and Kate. So we've got just some other questions. I might just have a look through. Let's see. So this one's come up with a few votes, so I'll just sort of go into what it's explaining here. So this is from Jack Knight. Thank you very much for your question. Was reading through an email I was sent today and noticed this IDP, which is International Driving Permit, can often help you and the ski school facilitate transport requirements for guests and yourself, which can affect the amount of work available to you. Does this mean we will be driving? Thanks. P.S. I'm going to Shigakogan if that narrows it all down. So I guess might just start from both of your perspectives. Would it be helpful having an international driving permit for both your resorts?
I guess a little bit. For us, we have a backcountry team that occasionally needs picking up from the next town on if they've gone off the back of Nozawa and have gone down that side of the ridge. That's about the only time we'd use it. So it is handy, and occasionally towards the end of the season, if we've got a vehicle spare, it gives us a chance to get you guys out on extra trips to nearby resorts. So yes, a little bit. I don't think it's really going to affect the amount of work you're going to get. It's just a useful thing. It's also useful if you want to rent a car. In Japan, you will need an IDP. So if you're thinking about that and you're wanting to use that as a mode of transport throughout your time in Japan, I would definitely recommend getting it. But for us, in terms of work, not a massive thing. Useful, but not hugely important.
Yeah, in Club Med, you won't be driving at all. So unless you want to go and travel after the season, rent a car and drive around Hokkaido, or fly to Honshu and drive around Honshu, you won't be needing a international driving license at all.
Yeah. And from sort of the other resort perspectives, if you're going to Hakuba Snow Sports School specifically, that is a requirement. So you do need to ensure you've got one. It's just part of sort of the way that the school is set up there, is that you are helping pick up guests from accommodation, in particular for private lessons. So that would be an expectation to have. I know within Niseko, it certainly will help if you've got an international driving permit, just to potentially get yourself a little bit of extra work. It's generally for most other places it's pretty optional. So it's for the sort of cost of it, and if you already have a driving license. Basically, what an international driving permit is a translation of your license. It's not overly, it's just a piece of cardboard with a cellophane over basically a profile picture of your face, and that's sort of what it is. Basically, you have to carry that along with your driver's license to legally drive in the country. So, for the sake of it, if you're a bit unsure, I'd say just get one, and if you were sort of intending on driving in any capacity. If you don't have a driver's license, you go into a resort and you're quite concerned, then don't worry about it. It's really only if we've specified that it's a definite requirement, or that it might help you a little bit. There are some resorts who have indicated that probably is the case, and that sort of works from the employer's perspective, that they can probably help line you up a bit of extra work. So hopefully that helps answer your question. I know it was something that got a lot of interest. But you do have to arrange that before you head out as well. So it's something worthwhile just noting. Here's one that's quite interesting. That's quite common as well, from Dan Smith. Considering traveling afterwards and maybe not limiting that to Japan, do you have any recommendations for what to do with all the ski gear, e.g. ship home, lock in, store in Japan, airport, lock up? So often, this is a question we do quite commonly get, is sort of how things can be sort of shipped around and how that all works. What's your sort of perspective on that, Kate, firstly?
Yeah, I actually do a lot of traveling in between the seasons myself, so I've got a great experience with that. I normally ship my gear because I travel in between Czech Republic, Japan, and New Zealand. So I normally would ship my things from Japan to New Zealand for my in-between travels. I personally use a company called Luggage Forward, but there's other companies like Send My Bag, and if you Google it, it really just depends on the destination, where you're going, and what size is your bag. Like every company has got slightly different rates, but you'll be probably looking, if you're looking for like a smaller bag up to 20 kilos, you're probably looking somewhere around $300 US. If you're looking for shipping a bag that's around 30 kilos, you're looking more about $500 US. There's other options. There's other options as well. If you're only traveling, let's say, around Japan for a month, you can use a local shipping service called the Takubin. What they do is you can ship your gear to the airport, and the airport has to store it for up to a month for free. So if you ship it with the local service, Takubin is reasonably cheap. It's usually just a couple of thousand yen. So if you ship it to the airport, it can stay there for up to a month. If you're traveling for a little bit longer or different destinations, that might be not the option, and then I would recommend shipping your stuff to the next destination where you're going or back home. Max, have you got any ideas on that?
Pretty much everything I was going to say. Takubin is the service I use pretty much all of the time. I know I can definitely say for canyons. I can't say for any of the other accommodations, but we've always got people in our lodges because we have summer things going on as well. Something I always do is I leave my bag at the lodge and I book it with Takubin. And then I can go and travel wherever I want. I've gone to South Korea for a few weeks, come back to Japan, hung around Japan for a few weeks. And then because I've booked my Takubin, the Takubin service, they go to the address, everything's paid. They just pick up your bag and send it to the airport like a week before you're flying out of Tokyo. So that's kind of how I've used that service to help me travel without two massive bags. And it's really cheap as well. It's a fantastic service.
Yeah, awesome. Really helpful insights there. Would it be okay if I could just either a combination of the two of you, if you wouldn't mind, maybe just popping that on the chat feed, sort of off to the side, just some of the names of what you've been discussing there, just so we can just make, because obviously there's some of it is spelled a certain way, and if you haven't been there, you might spell it a different way, I guess.
Yeah, it's quite tricky to spell that, actually.
That's all right. Thanks so much. Cool. Yeah, so that's obviously gives quite a few different options, and yeah, it's a common question we do get, so definitely worthwhile noting. Cool. I'll just have a look. So here's one specifically for you, Kate, from Robbie, and there's quite a few, obviously, Club Med viewers in attendance, I believe. So what outfits will we need to bring for Club Med evening activities?
What? Say that again?
What outfits will we need to bring for Club Med evening activities?
Very good. Very good question. So in Club Med, every night there is a different dress code. It usually rotates on a weekly basis. So like every Monday, you'll have the same dress code. Every Tuesday, you'll have the same dress code. From time to time, they do like different ones, and you kind of have to work with that. I believe it will be sent to you in like an information package. But there's usually... there's always, we would have like an all black night. We'll have an all white night. We'll have a colorful night. We'll have a flower night. We'll have an elegant night. So bring yourself some a little bit more upscale clothes. And then regarding jeans for instructors are part of their daily uniform. So I highly recommend to bring at least 2 pairs of jeans. But for the nightly dress codes, jeans are a big no-no. So unless the dress code states that, because sometimes we would have like jeans and white, so then you're allowed to wear jeans. But otherwise, in the evenings, jeans are a big no-no. So for guys, bring yourself a couple of black pants, or even different colored pants. For girls, definitely bring a couple of skirts or even a pair of dress. You'll definitely use that.
Yeah.
There are also 2 other dress codes which we have, and that's kind of Club Med collection, because Club Med's got 2 t-shirts with the numbers 88 and 45. So you will be required to buy those t-shirts once you get to Club Med. And usually like once or twice a week, we would have a dress code where you'll be wearing one of these t-shirts.
Yeah.
I hope that's
yeah. So it sounds like Dan's mentioned here that there is a list that you obviously have had access to. So I guess if there's any queries on that, best place certainly is to continue putting up any kind of questions on the Facebook group. I think just in lead up to the season. And we can obviously just clarify, because it's appreciate for yourselves. It's it's a little bit sort of to get your head around what's required. And for anyone else on this today, obviously this is just Club Med specific, so don't be too concerned if you're not going to Club Med, and you don't have to be bringing this along as such. But it's just sort of part of the way that Club Med is set up, is certainly that you're involved quite a fair bit in the evening times. So I'll sort of look at maybe another quick question we've got here. So this is one just from Harley. When we are in on the group flight and arriving into New Chitose on the 21st, how are we getting to the designated resorts? Do we have to make our own way? So a good question, something I can certainly specify. And relative to the dates that are indicated for each of your different Hokkaido programs, or Honshu programs for that matter, as long as you have booked a flight that is relative to when our starting date is that we've advised, or STA is advised, then you'll have the pickup arranged. So if you're a little bit unsure, you don't know what exactly those dates are, and you're still yet to book flights, then obviously drop us a quick line. We'll pop it on the Facebook group. But we will arrange your transfer. That's the big reason why we need flight arrival information, is just so that we can ensure that there's no hiccups in that process. Everyone's all coming from different places around the world, so we just want to make sure we've got that pretty sussed. And we do actually sort of line that up quite a bit in advance. So the earlier you can get that into us, the better on that front. But as indicated earlier, Niseko and Club Med Hokkaido for the likes, and Rizutsu, you will be picked up from the airport, and you'll be transferred directly to your training resort. For Honshu options, it'll be initially staying in Tokyo before you then move onwards to your resorts. Hopefully that helps answer the question. Let's have a look. Here's one that's quite interesting, which I wouldn't mind just going over with yourselves. Could you give a bit of info on what a residency card is, please? What it is, what we have to do with them. I've seen online that you have to take it somewhere to register an address of where you're staying. Is this something the resort could help with?
I could talk about that for sure. The residence card is kind of what you get given when you enter Japan. It's typically dependent on the visa. It'll tell you how long you're allowed to stay in Japan. So I think dependent on your country of citizenship with the work holiday visa, that'll kind of decide how long yours is. I know if you're from the UK, it'll be 12 months. On that, it has your photo, and then the registering thing is when you arrive in your resort, there'll be a local town office that you need to go to just to say you're moving in and you're living there for their records. It's definitely something we help out with. We'll take you down there. It's a pretty simple process that only takes about 10 minutes. You take your passport and your address. I think that kind of covers the question.
Yeah, in Club Med, you get your card at the airport, and then once you get to Club Med and start your employment, we're going to pick up those cards from you, and then a Club Med representative brings it to the local town hall to get you guys registered, and then we'll return it back to you. I also saw there was one more question about entering Japan, because the visa that you've been issued is only a one entry. That residency card allows you on to re-enter the country. So For example, last year we've had one of our instructors to go to Korea for the Olympics. So obviously he's entered Japan, worked in Club Med, and then for his holiday he went over to Korea with his residency card. So the residency card also allows you to re-enter Japan multiple times.
Awesome. Hope that helps. And I think this is sort of somewhat referring to your question there, Peter, as well. Do we need to register with the embassy on arrival? So pretty much everything will be disclosed from immigration officials when you're into the country. You probably will get often when you end up in Japan, you'll probably end up with a whole lot of forms in the likes of kanji, and you'll see all sorts of Japanese characters. You may not know what it necessarily means. Don't be too alarmed by it, but certainly there's some requirements within the first part of your time in Japan that you sort of have to fulfill. Things like is it still the case that you have to hold that residency card with you at all times? Like legally, you're meant to always sort of keep it on your body, I guess.
Yeah, it's basically like your Japanese ID.
Yeah. So if you got pulled over by the police or something like that, you need to have it basically. So it's just sort of there to say who you are, what you're doing in the country, I guess, really is sort of the main basis of it. But hopefully that helps. So let's have a look. Another quick question here. What's the likelihood of staying after winter to work with canyons in the summer? Do you, Max?
Yeah, sure. I can jump on that. There's definite opportunities. I don't know if you've looked into what Canyons actually does during the summer. There's a lot of rafting, kind of summer guiding stuff, and some really cool canyoning opportunities. So if you've ever done any of that or are really keen to train in that, there are some kind of similar training programs they run where you get kind of like free accommodation and free food, and that you get that in exchange for training in canyoning and rafting. There's also opportunities to work in the lodge, so in terms of working as a chef, working on reception. It's quite a big operations. There's definitely a few spots available, and obviously working for Canyons during the winter, we kind of give you guys preference in terms of internal job applications for summer opportunities. So it really depends on if it's an industry you're interested in or have knowledge in, or something you really want to get involved with. But there's definitely opportunities for sure.
Yeah. And same.
Yeah, I can.
From a Club Med,
sorry, go ahead, Ash.
Sorry, from a Club Med perspective as well, is it?
Yeah, definitely. So Club Med has actually like a set of 80 hotels around the whole world. So once you're kind of caught up with Club Med and you enjoy the geo life, you enjoy spending time with the guests, and you like traveling. Really a great opportunity how to get you traveled around the world. One of our Club Meds, either Sahara or Tomamu, will be also open for the summer. So then if you're interested and if you're a good geo, then you can get an offer to work even in Club Med over the summer in Hokkaido. We also have another Club Med down all the way on the south of Japan, in Okinawa, in the island called Ishigaki. There's another beach Club Med where we offer like snorkeling and diving and boating and stuff like that. So you'd be able to do that, or even you can get transferred to any other Club Med. So most likely around Asia. So we've got a Club Med in Thailand. We've got a Club Med in Malaysia, in Bali, Indonesia. So Club Med offers a lot of opportunity if you actually realize that you enjoy that kind of life.
Yeah, definitely, and certainly Japan as a summer destination as well as a winter destination, there's a lot on offer, and I guess often for a lot of people, you're coming out to somewhere like Japan. It is obviously a very unique experience. Some people do end up staying on quite a fair bit longer than they necessarily meant to. which is cool. And I guess, yeah, things like if you are looking at flights, if you haven't booked them just yet, there is things like a multi-flexible fare option, which if you're booking with STA Travel, they have that ability to, it's up to 3 changes to your return leg of your flight, which can often be quite handy just because that sort of means you can sort of keep things adaptable if if you're seeing sort of opportunities come up that you want to sort of stay on for. But yeah, by all means, feel free to put any questions up on the Facebook groups if you've got any further questions about that. Cool. So I'll just have a look. Some other. So I'm just going to raise just a question, which thank you very much. You've answered there, Max. Is it possible for my working holiday visa to change to a work visa while I'm in Japan? So yeah, there is a route that people can take, and what Max just indicated here, which I'll just sort of reiterate, is it is possible to make a change of status. Typically, you'll need 36 months of experience or a relevant degree. I think from my knowledge, but maybe I'm incorrect on this, that things like if you've done sort of hospitality work or maybe like outdoor instructing and the likes of that sort of can count towards in some circumstances? Or?
Yeah, it can do. It really depends on the job you're doing and what the company you're working for, what they offer. So, for example, like Canyons, if you're working as a ski instructor in the summer and a rafting instructor ski instructor in the winter and a rafting instructor in the summer, you could use both of those experiences to tally yourself up to 36 months to get a degree. Yeah. We've also got quite a few staff that have done sports science degrees or outdoor mounting degrees, or anything that's relevant and you can tie into the job title, you can typically use to get yourself a sponsored visa. Yeah.
Cool. Hopefully that helps. Yeah, I know it's often a sort of quite a relevant question, and the experience requirement can sort of obviously it does reflect, and if you are wanting to end up sort of working long term in Japan, it's something probably quite worthwhile keeping in mind is trying to build up as many hours as you can be. So doing your first season in Japan and then heading to do a Southern Hemisphere season, all those kind of things will just ensure that sort of comes a lot quicker, I have to say. But Max, I'm just going to quickly mention here, because I know when we first sort of initially communicated here, you were indicating, I think around 10 o'clock, that you had some commitments to go to, which is totally fine if you do need to head to those. I don't want to keep you from it.
10 minutes,
yeah, so you just feel free, just if you do need to sort of chime off, then just obviously let me know.
No worries.
We'll try and sort of, I will just admit, we may not necessarily get through every single question, which we'll do our best to go through some of the other ones. But if we haven't quite covered it, we will look to try and do that and follow up. And also worthwhile if you kind of sort of go, oh, actually, I've got a whole bunch more. The reality is we are sort of speaking, obviously, somewhat in a general sense in this. Obviously, from Kate and Max's perspective, they can speak more specifically of the resorts they're at, but it won't necessarily cover each and every single one probably today in great detail. So, just mindful of that if you are still a bit like, just don't know about a couple of things, then either just reach out to us, your training advisor that you've always been sort of communicating with, or it's often a good time to start using the Facebook groups just because it sort of helps keep the conversation going and get sort of people sort of all informed. There might be other people in the same kind of boat as you wondering the same thing. So we generally sort of recommend the Facebook groups as we head forward. Cool. I might just sort of go, here's one that's quite interesting from Dan. What countries make up the greatest percentage of guests in Japan? Which nationalities will I be most likely teaching? That's a fantastic question. Who are you kind of teaching? What sort of makeup of people? There, Kate?
So for us, it definitely depends on the time of the year. So in December, it's Singaporean and Hong Kong holidays. So right at the start of the season, we'd get a lot of people from Singapore, Hong Kong. We get quite a few Malaysians and Indonesians, actually. And then coming towards Christmas and New Year's Eve, when the Japanese people get their holidays as well, we get quite a few Japanese. Then January is basically 90% Australian. So you'd have 90% of the hotel will be occupied by Australians. In February, 90% of the hotel will be occupied by Chinese and Taiwanese people due to Chinese New Year. And then in March, it goes back to Hong Kong, Singapore. Even we get quite a few Thai people. We get a lot of expats from for like European expats, a lot of French people, because Club Med is originally French. So a lot of expats that live around Asia. So they would live in Bangkok, in Shanghai, in Kuala Lumpur, and they'll be coming to Japan for their spring vacation.
Yeah, we're pretty much identical in Nozawa to that in terms of the time frame of percentages of guests. One thing we do have is we're quite close to Tokyo, with Yuzawa and Nozawa both being accessed by the Shinkansen. So we do get some nice kind of weekend trips. There's a few international schools in Tokyo, so kids that are attending those schools that speak English all come out and learn with us at the weekends. But yeah, we're pretty much identical in that. The market sounds more or less the same.
Yeah, and Club Med is a very international company. So most of the people that come to Club Med will speak English, and you'd be teaching usually mixed groups of people. And if there's a high percentage of Japanese, there will always be someone who speaks English and can help you translate. So no worry about that. English is definitely the main language in Club Med and within our lessons.
I think one thing I could definitely add to that, for us, anybody that can speak or teach a lesson in Cantonese or Mandarin is incredibly valuable at our resorts, because we only tend to have maybe one or two instructors that can do it. And those instructors, especially in February, are booked out with private requests for like a month solid, which makes them a ton of extra cash just for that skill. And even for us, just having basic Chinese skills can be really useful. So something to bear in mind if you have been thinking about that, or if you are able to speak a bit of Cantonese and Mandarin, it's a useful thing to have in Japan.
Yeah, definitely disclose, like if you speak any other languages at all, I'd say it's worthwhile just making sure you let the snow school know. It's handy for them to have that knowledge. And it often can reflect in sort of increased work for yourself. So just something to certainly bear in mind. And that's pretty much what sort of you both indicated on languages. I would have to say, from my knowledge, it's pretty much the case for everywhere in terms of sort of similarity for holiday periods for guests coming from certain areas, and kind of requirements on language. On that note as well, if you are concerned about the fact that you don't speak any Japanese, don't be overly alarmed. You don't have to speak any specific Japanese, but I would always say it's worthwhile putting it out there a little bit to learn some. It'll just really enrich your experience, and you will be obviously at some stages of the season probably interacting with Japanese people, so it's worthwhile speaking some of the local dialects. It's pretty good fun it's a good fun language, I feel, to learn.
Totally, and I think the guests and your students will really, really appreciate just hi in Japanese, how are you? They're always super excited if somebody can speak at least a couple of words. Yeah,
I mean, last year, I know, I don't know if every other resort, but I know within Sapporo even there was sort of like a bit of a Japanese kind of study group, sort of informal group that kind of formed, which there was a couple of people that had some language skills which sort of helped out with each other, which was quite cool. And yeah, I guess if that's something you're kind of interested in, it's maybe worthwhile putting out there, because there might be other people in the same boat that are keen to learn too.
Yeah, and sometimes we try and put up, even like during the busy times when we've got a lot of Japanese in the house, we try and put up like a lesson or two of the basic Japanese. It's nothing that's happening on a regular basis, so don't expect that you learn Japanese while in Club Med, but definitely those few and phrases that could come in handy when you're teaching on the slopes, we can provide you with that.
Fantastic. I might just sort of look at maybe just doing this sort of last two questions, just sort of as we're heading towards just under an hour here. So I'll just go with your question here, Beth. I have been sort of meaning to get to it, but just wanted to sort of make sure we're sort of following in a suitable direction. So could you please give a bit more information about the Niseko resort itself, please, and also the accommodation situation there? So with Niseko, we have the relationship with 3 different snow schools within Niseko. So I'd probably need to know a bit more specifically where you're heading to if you want a bit more specific detail. So Niseko International Snow Sports, Niseko Go Snow, and Niseko Village are the ones that we're associated with. Both Niseko International Snow Sports and Go Snow are located in the Harafu kind of area, and Village is located in a different base area to Niseko. When you first arrive from New Chitose Airport, and you'll transfer on your way towards the resort, you initially go through a place called Kuchan, which that's certainly a good place for if you need to get any kind of bits and pieces. There's a bit to sort of source there. I know some people there's not relative to every single Niseko option, but some people have stayed in Kuchan just because they find it's quite helpful for sort of extra sort of items, getting bits and pieces, because it's not so much a resort township, it's away from the resort, and the accommodation cost can be a bit cheaper there by comparison to being right there in the heart of it all. The resort, it's quite a busy place. It's a very sort of well-known spot. I guess if you are okay to maybe just pop on the chat feed if you have any particular things you want to know a bit more detail about. The accommodation, once again, it's kind of like I mentioned earlier, we will have accommodation set up from the get-go. If you're going to Go Snow, then accommodation is in the same location that you'll stay on from the start right through to the period you're working. For ISS, at least I know it's that you start off in one location and you'll then continue on in staff housing. So that's hopefully the detail I can provide at this stage. What I would recommend there, Beth, is within your Niseko Facebook group, just to pop any particular details you want to know more specifically, and that way we can hopefully help a little bit more clearly. We do have the likes of James Winfield, who's on our he's basically our Niseko rep, and he's someone that can help a fair bit. He's spent a fair bit of time there. He'll be able to talk in a much greater depth of detail than what I can, but hopefully that sort of helps initially cover that point. Cool.
And actually, if I could just jump in, I've got to run. Got to get up and something. But hopefully anybody that's coming out to Canyons that's watched this, looking forward to meet you guys in about 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and get to ski with you, and hopefully we have a great season as well. But thanks for this, and I'll see you again soon.
Yeah, good stuff, Max. Thanks so much again for your time and sharing your helpful information there. Greatly appreciated.
Yeah, sure. And then anybody on the Canyons crew, put a message on the Facebook group, and I'll be able to answer any more specific questions for that.
Excellent.
Cool.
Take care, Max.
Thanks for joining.
You're instructing. Yeah. Cool. Hey, we'll probably sort of look at wrapping things up from here. so yeah, I appreciate there's still some questions we haven't quite got to. But yeah, they're great questions, and we will. I appreciate some of those that have been, responding to the questions. Some of those that are also on the program, which is really, really helpful. And we'll look at doing this in follow up. So I'll, once sort of the session's finished, I can obviously go back on there and we can type through the questions and reply to anything you're just not quite so sure about. But I guess what I might sort of look at doing here is just getting a bit more of kind of a, I guess, in terms of sort of your, as an intern, your preparation for going for this season. It's obviously something that it's pretty exciting, and we want to make sure that you're set up and going to have the best possible experience you can. I mean, it is one of those kind of life experiences, I think, doing this. It's something that people, it leaves a massive impression for the rest of your life. And I think it's just important that you go out with the right kind of approach. And I guess what would you sort of say on that front there, Kate? How should people sort of best prep themselves for the best possible season, if they want to sort of make the most of it all?
I think it's just really just come and have fun, like enjoy the season, embrace the culture, and particularly in Club Med, because you get a big chance, you get a lot of creating a relationship with the guests, and because you're spending so much time with them outside of the lessons as well, like you can develop really lifelong relationships. And if you do it right way, if you do it with an open mind, you end up with so many invites to different countries, to Kuala Lumpur, Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia. And those people are super nice and welcoming, and they would always say, come and visit us and we'll show you around. And that gives you a great opportunity to travel the world on a reasonably low budget as well.
Yeah, definitely want to make the most of every single moment, because it does tend to fly by. And when you sort of first enter the training period, it is going to be, there is sort of a bit of a difference, I guess, in terms of the way that your day is structured. When you're obviously training, it's all for the purpose of getting yourself set up for the exam, and getting the best possible result for that exam, taking on all the knowledge. So I guess on that front, speaking from someone that has trained people in the past, and I do assess people as well to become instructors, it's a big thing to just, I guess, go out with that open mind. And also just bear in mind that from day one, you are known of as an EA, an EA intern. So everyone knows who you are, even if you may not be wearing the EA hoodie, branded hoodie that you're going to get. People generally sort of know who you are. And I would say, this kind of industry, it's one that people are really, really willing and keen to sort of share their helpful advice and help you in any possible way in a support role as possible. So definitely feel free to reach out to people and just sort of, if you are having concerns or queries or questions, just to sort of discuss with other people. It may even just be fellow employees or your supervisors or the like. I guess from that perspective, you are attending as a trainee over that first few weeks, so your mindset is obviously to get the level. But from that perspective, the trainers are, they're skilled to get you up to the standard in the best possible way, using all the tools they have. But at the same time, they are also eyes and ears for the respective snow schools. So what you sort of have to keep in mind is, as much as you are a trainee, you are that prospective employee as well. So just to make sure that you are doing everything that you possibly can in a professional way. So, have fun by all means. humor is great. Like, make sure you're sort of having a good old time. But certain things, there will be expectations placed on you. So that's things like presentation. So, from day one, if someone is just looking scruffy, bad smells, hasn't showered, kind of just got up last second and got there, that's probably not going to be a great look from day one. And the first impressions are really, really important. Like, that is, it's for your guests, but also for your trainers and for the snow school management. They will make, it's human nature that you'll make assumptions immediately when you sort of first meet people. So you will want to make sure that that is the first kind of thing. I know one of the snow school directors I've worked in the past, that is one of his biggest things is the presentation and the punctuality side of things in the very first instance. So before you've even opened your mouth and shook the hand, if you've sort of not paid really much attention to those two things, then you're setting yourself up for a bad start that might be a bit harder to sort of overcome. So one of the big things I always say is just never be late, like ever. Whether it's training, whether it's meetings, anything like that. Just everyone is on sort of quite a time schedule, and there's a lot of things to sort of put in place, and especially your guests when it comes to teaching them. That's what the trainers and the snow school management are making that assessment as you go through, is if we put this person in a jacket, how would they represent our school? And the reality is that there's not, as much as we have there is a job offer tied in, I will admit that, the ski resorts, the employers and the trainers have a fair bit of influence and have the overall say at the end of the day. So if they are feeling really of concern, then that is something that most likely will have been raised with you. If it continued to be a problem, or if it was serious enough in its nature, then it can mean that you don't end up in the employment role. It's obviously a big downer, but don't want to sort of finish on the downer. But we'll keep it on the positive.
Time management definitely in Japan is a big thing, because Japanese people are very concerned about that, and they play very well by rules. Their trains are never late, and they expect their people not to be late as well. So if you're showing up on time, you're already late. In Japan, the kind of the standard is to show up 10 minutes before that, and you will realize that in your lessons, because in Club Med you're required, if you're teaching kids lessons, you have to be there 20 minutes before the lesson to help kids put on boots, and then on adults lessons you have to be there 10 minutes before the lesson starts, but you'd actually come 10 minutes before to your meeting spot, and there will be already a bunch of Japanese people waiting, because for them that's the standard time to show up for a lesson.
So just that's it's just the big one, is just make sure you go out with that right kind of mindset, right attitude from day one. Like, it is something that for everyone, you've invested a fair bit of money into doing this. You've you're making a sort of complete resettlement of your life. So we want to make sure that it's a successful one. So any queries or questions on that, obviously feel free to pop them on the Facebook groups or anything like that, or make contact with your respective program rep. But I guess aside from that, we might sort of tie things up from here. I do thank you there, Chris, for chiming in on some of those questions and helping with some of the ones that popped up. Once again, if this is something that you found helpful, but you maybe weren't able to catch the first bit, or you're only able to catch part of it or something like that, the whole thing will be recorded. I'll look at trying to add it to the Facebook group, so you've got it to check in your own time. I know some of you registered and weren't able to attend, and that's totally fine. But we'll sort of keep you on the loop and make sure we're obviously prepping you as best as we can be. So awesome.
Well, I think there's a couple of more Club Med specific questions, so I'm just gonna type it up, and after the session I'll answer that for you guys.
Legendary. Thank you very much, Kate. Hey, and massive thank you so much for you giving up your time there today, Kate. It's greatly appreciated.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, and I'm really, really excited for the season and meeting all of you guys, because this is what makes our resort special, is all the people that we're bringing in and their personalities. So I'm really looking forward to meet you.
Yeah, excellent. Cool. We'll catch you another time, obviously, folks. And yeah, thanks again, and have a good evening or morning or daytime wherever you are in the world. And yeah, take care.
Well, good. See you guys.
Oh, got to figure out how I'm trying to turn this off. Here we go. Hello.